All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. JD, can you tell I'm a little on edge today? Am I a little on edge?
Yeah, you're kind of out of control today, Brian.
Well, my parents are in town. They're stressing me out beyond belief. So when somebody calls up, multiply it by 10. I get 10 times more angry today. Now, my parents are in town. I love them very much. But they are a little bit stressful. Anyway, hopefully they're listening too. So hopefully they heard that. But
I'm
anyway,
sure they are.
Getting back to what we've been talking about, we talked about this former porn star, Jenny Lee. We talked about this earlier in the week. She was at the top of her game, I guess, in the porn business, whatever that means. But she was making a lot of money, right? Very popular. Now, several years later, she's homeless, living in one of these tunnels. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how you can get to that point and get to this point. So the guy we have with us on the line right now, his name is Rob Banghart, and he works with the Shine a Light, which is the Freedom House Sober Living program, helping people. And Rob also used to be homeless, so I want to get his story, and he's gracious enough to come on our show. Rob, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Thanks for having me.
What's up, Rob?
So, Rob, what is the first thing that enters your mind when you hear about this story of this former porn star, Jenny Lee? Several years ago, she was making a lot of money, and now all of a sudden she finds herself homeless in Las Vegas. What's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
I mean, just that the cross-section of homeless people is so varied. Everybody ends up out there for many different reasons, and, it can happen to anybody. We got to keep that in mind. I think when we're stable and we're living a good life, we tend to forget about how quickly it could all go wrong for many different reasons. And a lot of different people end up out there for many different reasons, and, it's hard.
So, Rob, tell me your story. Give people a little bit of background on you, your family situation. How did you end up homeless? That's the first part of my question. And the second part of my question is, how were you able to get out of that and to live a good life and to be where you're at now?
Oh, wow. For me, it was drug addiction. I had a life. I had everything going, and I relapsed, and I lost it all and very quickly became homeless. And drug addiction plays a huge part of my story. I was living in a tunnel for about 2 years. I was homeless for about 5. And then consequences of my own actions. I was out up to no good, and I actually got attacked by a couple of people, put in the hospital for a month or so. And then people from the Shine a Light, friends of mine, they came around and started talking to me about, a better way of life and how to get out, how they had gotten out, just talk to me, just gave me some hope, that, because by the end I was so hopeless. I thought I was going to die out there. I thought, that was my life. That was it. And then they came around and started talking to me about getting into Freedom House or, getting into treatment and starting my life, and that's what worked for me. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed they came into my life.
From your experience talking to other homeless people, what is the most common reason for homelessness in Las Vegas?
I don't know if there's one off answer. There's many different reasons. I think everybody focuses on drug addiction because it is prevalent, but there's many different reasons. People,
How about gambling?
Of course, gambling, losing a job. Then there's cross addictions. Maybe they're drugs and gambling. But people tend to lose sight of the fact that there's many different reasons. It could be, like I said, loss of job, divorce, and there's so many different reasons. We meet so many different people. There's not just one answer. Drugs is prevalent, of course, but there's many, many different reasons. And we got to be open-minded to all of them because you can't treat them all the same way when you're trying to get them out either.
Right. All right, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Rob Banghart. He works for an organization, Shine a Light, Freedom House Sober Living Program. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes here. Reason why we had Rob come on, big story, national story, in regards to former porn star Jenny Lee, who was seen as being homeless. She's homeless in Las Vegas, and she was making a lot of money several years ago. So Rob, for somebody that has never been homeless before, and by the way, we're so glad that you're doing better now and you were able to fight through that. But for somebody that has never been homeless before, what type of living conditions were you in? Were you living in a tent? Where were you living? How the hell were you able to get food? And how were you able to survive those conditions?
For me, it was like a learning process. I started out just living on the streets, just panhandling and trying to get by, trying to keep my drug addiction going. It was simple. I didn't really care too much about where I was living. And then it progressed. I had a tent for a while. Then I was living in a bandos for a while. I lived at the Moulin Rouge when it was still up for a long time, probably by a year and a half, 2 years. And then eventually I met some people that were in my neighborhood, and they had told me they were living down there, and we had a lot in common. And I went down to hang out one day. And I never left, and I was living with a sleeping bag and a shopping cart underground, and just.
How are you able to deal with 110-degree heat in the summer? I don't understand. How can you survive that?
I mean, living in a tunnel, my tunnel, it was cooler. Underground, you're 30 feet underground.
Right.
You're in the shade. I mean, it comes with its own problems, believe me, but there is some, the cops aren't going, in my tunnel in particular, they were never going into my tunnel because it was a very hard entrance to get into. It wasn't a tunnel you could just drive right up to and get in, like
Sure.
some of it we see. So it offered certain securities, you know what I mean? But then on the flip side, it offered certain dangers also.
Are you able to go back now that you're doing better? Are you able to go back there and still talk to friends that you lived with in that area and try to help them? Have you been able to do that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, there was a huge part. I mean, like I said, Shine a Light came to me. A lot of people that are associated with Shine a Light are a part of my story in recovery. Helped me out so much that, and one of the things they showed me very early on was giving back. I have to give back. I mean, that's the key. It was given to me. I have to give it away kind of thing. And I've been able to be a part of Shine a Light since I got out of treatment. And I've gone to my tunnel. I've gone to several tunnels. I know, it's still fresh for me. I've only been out of it for about a little over a year, so I still know a lot of people down there. I just lost a friend in my tunnel from an overdose just this past week, and we were back there, saw his campsite, talked to some people, and I've tried to get some people out of my tunnel, no more than anywhere else. I'm trying to help anywhere I can, but I've definitely gone back as a kind of a personal thing, to know that's where I come from, that's where my life almost ended and all that, and to be able to pull somebody else out. But the best thing we can do, honestly, is in situations like that is just to be the best example, to show up, let them know, look how it's working in my life. You know me, if I can do it, you can do it kind of thing. And that's it. I can't force it on anybody, but we keep showing up, and we've been blessed. This year we pulled out almost, I think, 21 people so far since December.
Congrats.
Yeah, so I mean, you just got to keep showing up. You never know. We've gone to tunnels where we've shown up 100 times and nobody will talk to us. We're just handing out some stuff, getting a real light conversation, and then boom, that 101st time, 3 people say, "That's it, I'm ready to go."
Wow.
We don't have any control over it. It's not something that you can force on anybody. It's just something that just keep showing up, build relationships, keep giving them hope, keep showing them, and keep sharing our stories and listening to their stories and hoping that.
Rob, I have two questions. I have 2 questions for you. The first one, you mentioned dangers. What are some of the main perils you face being homeless? And 2, what is the longest amount of time, what's the longest amount of time that you've known someone to live and sustain being homeless in Las Vegas?
First part. Let's see here. Some of the dangers. All the obvious. You're living off the radar. Who knows? Something happens to you down in those tunnels. Who's you gonna call? Where are you gonna go? I've seen attacks and different things that you're not that culture. You're not calling the police to say, hey, somebody just attacked me. You know what I mean? You're vulnerable. There was a guy that was out there in my neighborhood was hitting the homeless with hammers, and I think he was mentally ill or something. They caught him, but he was running around doing that, and that was right where I was at. So you're susceptible to predators and whatever's out there. You know what I mean? And then the second part of the question, I think. What was the second question again? I'm sorry.
The second question was, what was the longest amount of time that you've known someone to live homeless and sustain that lifestyle in Las Vegas?
Oh, God. We just met a guy recently who's been out there for 15 years.
Oh, my God.
I can't imagine how that's even possible.
So how are you able to take showers? How are you able to what if you're sick? You get the flu or you get some sort of disease or you're not able to do these things. Obviously, I can't relate to that. I'm very fortunate. But how are you able to sustain that for 15 years? I don't understand.
There's definitely a certain level of commitment. But here's the thing for me. I realize this now looking back. I took pride in it. You know what I mean? Like I'm a survivalist, right? That's how delusional I was. You know what I'm saying? That's how deep into the lifestyle I was, right? Look at me. I'm out here surviving. I don't need anybody. But everybody comes up with their hustles and their angles. You know what I mean? Like I stayed by the mission, so I was able to get one meal a day. You know, I would go to parks and wash off. You know what I mean? Like if I took a shower, I mean, I went months without taking a shower.
Okay, so the misconception, I've heard different things about panhandlers. You said you had to panhandle, right? I've heard some people say some of these people are scam artists. They're not really homeless, and they're just doing it to make a quick buck. So I wanted to ask you, number one, have you ever met a scam artist panhandler? And number two, you being a panhandler yourself, how much money can you make doing that on a daily basis?
Panhandling was not a huge part of my story. Panhandling, I did in the very beginning. I was out there for 5 years. The panhandling was like, you know, the first month or two, and I kind of, that wasn't really my thing. But everybody had their angle. You know what I mean? Was there guys out there that were, you know, were writing signs that weren't true? Of course. I never came across any like fake people that jumped in a Mercedes and took off, and I never came across any of that. But I heard about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean,
That'd be a little weird. So you said you had one meal a day. You said you were able to go to the park and clean yourself, and you also said you had that survival mode where you actually took pride in it, which I do find kind of fascinating. But I would imagine, look, nobody wants to be homeless, obviously, but I would imagine with all the trials and tribulations that you've gone through in your life, I can't imagine how tough mentally of a human being you are for going through that. Like I said, nobody wants to be homeless, but I would say that everything you've been through in your life, you must appreciate things a lot more than the average person does.
I mean, I have my own understanding of it. And believe me, I know that I'm blessed. You know what I mean? There's no doubt about it. I try to keep myself as humble as possible because that could happen to me again. You know what I mean? If I don't keep doing what I'm doing,
sure,
I could end up right back there, and it didn't end well for me.
So does a homeless person have any expenses?
You know, my experience is this: the tunnel that I was in, everybody was doing drugs. We were all drug addicts.
Right.
That's not every tunnel, and that's not every person out there. But that was my experience in my area. So we were hustling to get our fix for the day. You know, whatever it was, we were stealing, whatever we were doing to further our addictions, and then outside of that, everything else was secondary.
Right. So the priority was getting the fix.
For sure. I mean, that in my tunnel, but that's my tunnel. I can't speak for every other tunnel out there.
And the reason I ask that is I drive past homeless people sometimes, and I wonder or panhandler, and I wonder if you panhandled for, say, a month, and every day you made $30 or $40, and you put that money into a slot machine, eventually you would win. And you would win big.
I wouldn't advise that.
I mean, I'm saying eventually, though. But if you had no other expenses, you could potentially do that. Do you agree?
I don't know. I'm not a big gambler. I gamble with my life. I don't gamble that much with money.
That was a weird question. I don't know. You're asking someone who used to be homeless, who's now doing very well, about slot machines and panhandling, and then trying to hit a jackpot.
I'm saying in Las Vegas, if you put $40 in a machine,
I get what you're saying.
300 days in a row, you're going to win something big at some point, like video poker or something along those lines.
I get what you're saying. I don't think that's a great strategy, but I get what you're saying.
Of course, it's a terrible strategy.
If you're just, I got to think that if somebody's gambling every single day like that, they probably have a problem.
Yeah.
And if they win, they're probably not going to stop anyway. You know what I mean?
Sounds like me, actually. That sounds like me.
A little bit.
When I was looking for my fix, if I had come up big, I was going to keep going. I wasn't going to stop. You know what I mean? So.
Sure, no doubt.
That much different for them.
Absolutely. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Rob Banghart. He used to be homeless. Thank goodness he's able to turn his life around, and now it's incredible what he's doing. He's helping other people from the Shine a Light Freedom House Sober Living Program. Okay, Rob, I want to give you the opportunity. And by the way, thank you so much for sharing your story. Not a lot of people
Rob.
would be able to do this. I want to give you the opportunity, Rob. Talk a little bit about Shine a Light. What is it? How do people get involved with it? And if somebody is listening and they happen to be homeless, what can you do to help them? Tell me a little bit about this organization.
Shine a Light was an organization started a while back by Matthew O'Brien, and he's an author. He wrote Beneath the Neon. It's a book about homeless underground in Las Vegas. And then he had a job offer in, I think it's El Salvador. He took that and he turned it over to Paul, who is actually director for Freedom House right now. And Paul got me involved. And what we do is we go into the tunnels with supplies, try to build relationships, and offer a way out. That's the short and sweet of it. We bring down basic hygiene, some non-perishable foods, batteries, socks, and drop it off, talk to them, listen to their stories, tell them our stories, try to show them an example of a way to get out. And then we try to build relationships, because most of these people have been on the streets for so long. They've heard every story. They've had a million people lie to them or whatever. They've had their traumatic experiences, and it takes time. It takes time to get them to know that we're not there to get them in trouble. We're not there to call the cops on them. We're not just trying to, we're not anything like that. We're just trying to offer hope. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And a way out.
It's amazing. It's amazing what you're doing. We're so glad you were able to turn your life around. I guess this will be our last question for you here, and I want to turn it right back to where we started from. This story earlier this week of this former adult film star, Jenny Lee, who was seen homeless over the weekend. What advice would you give to her? And I know it's kind of tough because you haven't spoken to her face to face, but if she was listening now, what would you say to her?
There's a way out. You know what I mean? There's definitely a way out. If I can get out, you can get out. That's for sure. Because I'm a hopeless cause. You know what I mean? People saw me when I was out there at the end, and they thought for sure I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it, and I almost did. And I made it out. And if I can do it, you can do it. You know what I mean? And just reach out. We'll help you out if we can, for sure.
Before I let you go, I want to play a little bit of audio for you. I want you to listen to this because I find it fascinating. She was found homeless, and she's doing an interview, and she portrays herself to be very, very happy, which I find a little bit bizarre. I don't think many homeless people out there are very happy. So she did an interview over the weekend, Rob, and before we let you go, I don't want to forget. I want to play this audio for you, and I want you to respond to it.
I used to be in pornography.
As an actress?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little too successful, maybe. I actually got very famous. I should still be top 100 on some list somewhere.
Really?
Yeah. I used to be so hot. But I'm happy. I have everything I need. People are more accepting here. I like that those hardships build camaraderie. So I feel like you end up making more genuine friends.
So, Rob, she says she has everything she needs, and she says she's happy. Do you believe her?
I believe that on a spiritual level. I just I understand what she's talking about. It's that, and I've seen that video actually. I've been trying to track her down, trying to find out where she's at. But I get it. That's my experience as well. When I was down there, when I lived in my tunnel, there was 30 of us living down there in the beginning. We all had the same drive. We were all out hustling. It became a community. And we were like a soldier returning from war kind of thing. That shared experience. You know what I mean? That nobody else is going to understand because, like you said yourself, you can't imagine. You can't. Well, I can imagine what she's going through because I've been through it. We have a shared experience. You know what I mean? That's kind of the strength of Shine a Light, right? Having that shared experience and being able to relate to them on a level that nobody else could. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no question, no doubt. Well, maybe you could do us this favor, Rob. If you do find her, if you do track her down, we would love to have you and her in studio, both of you. And I think it'd be great to hear from her and to hear from you and maybe the things you're trying to do to help her. I hope you do track her down. I hope you do give her the help that she needs, Rob. So before we say goodbye here, I want you to give your number off the air to our producer. We'd love to keep in touch with you if that's okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, Rob, for your time and your story. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
Wow, that was some powerful stuff, man. I got to be honest with you.
That was eye-opening and ear-opening, to say the least.
I mean, we just spoke to a gentleman by the name of Rob Banghart, formerly a homeless person for a number of years. He's turned his life around, and now he's helping other people in Las Vegas. And that was, eye-opening is definitely one word. I mean, we don't know. We're very fortunate. We come from, middle-class families. We don't know what it's like. If we lose our job or something horrible happens in our life, we have people that we depend on that could help us in that situation.
Well, we also don't have, drug addictions.
Right.
Substance abuse addictions.
Right.
And that's clearly a very, very big issue. One thing I've always said about Las Vegas is you can have a vice. You can have one vice and be okay here, but you can't have two or three vices. You can't have a gambling addiction and a cocaine addiction. And
no, you're not going to make it.
And a drinking problem.
A lot of people
you
who
are
just
done.
have a lot of people who just have one addiction can't make it, let alone two or three. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just so happy that he was able to not only turn his life around, but to help others now. He's literally saving lives. So our thank you again to Rob Banghart for taking the time to join us. And we will continue to monitor this story. We will see if he can track down Jenny Lee, former porn star who's now living homeless somewhere in Las Vegas. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM 720 AM KDWN. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take. Shapiro, so glad you could join us on a Thursday. So coming up here, we're going to play some audio from former Miss America, Miss Nevada, Miss America pageant. They're saying that Miss Nevada, Katie Williams, has been stripped of her crown for violating social media rules. We are going to hear from former Miss Nevada, Katie Williams herself. She talks a little bit about why she lost that crown of Miss Nevada, and it might surprise you a little bit, but it has a lot to do with another woman who lost her crown from Miss Michigan, and they have one thing in common, folks. They are both Donald Trump supporters. These are dangerous times we are living in. I don't believe because you wear a MAGA hat and you're a Donald Trump supporter, you should lose your job or be harassed. I would say the same thing about anybody on the left. You are entitled to your opinions, and it should not affect your job unless you say something completely over the top, racist or hateful, or make a direct threat. So we're going to get to that when we come back, and we're going to talk about this situation, which I think is very serious because I think it sets a very bad precedence in this country. I do not support it one bit at all. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this, and we'll also take your calls at 702-257-5396. You are listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.